The desert stretched out in every direction, flat and shimmering under twin suns. Ethan Cross trudged forward, muttering into his recorder. I don't know. Heat's killing me. Oxygen's holding. Haven't seen anything alive except the paw prints, big enough to eat me for breakfast. He glanced back at the imprints behind him, each the size of a serving tray. Yeah, probably should have gone the other way. A shadow fell over him. Not just a shadow, several. He turned slowly, hand halfway to the emergency flare. 12-foot-tall women surrounded him, their skin bronze from sun and dust, muscles shaped like living statues. Each wore strips of ceremonial cloth that seemed allergic to covering anything important. And each held a massive feline creature on a jeweled leash, creatures that looked like panthers crossed with tigers, fangs gleaming, tails swishing lazily. One of the women, taller than the rest, stepped forward. Her eyes scanned him like she was choosing which part to eat first. She spoke in a low, rolling voice, the syllables strange. His translator buzzed in his ear, crackled, then output. You will judge our P*size. Ethan blinked. What? The translator repeated it. Judge. Our P*size. His eyes darted to the cats. Oh, you mean the cats, right? Yeah, I'm good with animals. Murmurs rippled through the group, followed by approving nods. The leader gestured, and two of them lifted him by the arms like he weighed nothing. One grinned down at him. The Seedbringer has come at last. He swallowed. That's not my job title. They carried him toward a vast settlement carved into cliffs, staircases winding upward, banners flapping in the wind. Felines prowled freely, brushing against the legs of the giant women, their rumbling purrs so deep he could feel them in his bones. As they reached the central plaza, an elder emerged. Her hair was silver, but her body was carved muscle and curve, same as the others. She studied him with an expression that was half reverence, half appraisal. It has been a century since a worthy outsider stepped onto our sands, she said, voice amplified somehow. Tomorrow begins the festival of furs and flesh. You will judge the worthiness of our P*size. The chosen will be bred by you. The unworthy will be discarded. Ethan tried to chuckle. When you say discarded, you mean? She smiled, showing teeth. Return to the dust. He looked from her to the big cats lounging nearby. Okay, just so I'm clear, you're talking about these, right? The animals? Not. A sudden cheer erupted from the crowd of hundreds, no, thousands, of giant women gathered in the plaza. Holographic drones zipped through the air, projecting close-up shots of his confused face onto floating screens. The cheering only got louder. One woman bent low, so close her breath warmed his ear. We have trained our P*size for many seasons, human. You will be impressed. He managed a strangled laugh. Oh, I'm already impressed. The leader lifted him like a child and carried him into the arena. The place was colossal, tiered stone seats surrounding a central stage. Cats padded along the edges, eyes gleaming, as women in shimmering cloth prepared for some kind of performance. Alien music thrummed through the ground. The elder's voice boomed again. Behold! The Seedbringer has come to restore our bloodline. Tomorrow, under the twin suns, he shall judge our P*size, and claim his mates. Ethan's heart did a backflip. Claim my no, hold on. I'm just a... Too late. The crowd roared, stamping their feet, chanting something in the native language. The translator picked up a few words, mate, stud, breeder. One of the women carrying him leaned down with a teasing grin. You look nervous, human. Do not be. We are very gentle, at first. He tried to focus on breathing. Look, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm a ship tech, I fix engines. The elder interrupted, still addressing the crowd. Tomorrow, we discover which among us are most fit to bear the Seedbringer's offspring. The unworthy will be given to the dunes. Ethan muttered under his breath. Oh good, public execution. Love that. The giantess holding him laughed, a deep, rolling laugh. Do not worry. Most survive. Unless you choose poorly. His stomach dropped. Choose Pearly? Yes, she said, eyes dancing with amusement. If you misjudge AP**SSY, it may eat you. He stopped walking. You're joking. She didn't answer. They set him down in a chamber draped in fabrics that smelled faintly of exotic spices and animal musk. Two massive cats lounged in the corner, tails flicking, eyes unblinking. A golden bowl of water sat on the floor, his size, not theirs. Before he could process, a younger giantess ducked through the curtain, holding a folded garment. For you, she said, laying it out. It was a robe of fine silk, open at the sides, held together by a single sash. He looked at it, then up at her. No pants? She tilted her head. Why would you need pants to judge AP**SSY? He decided not to answer that. She left with a grin, her hips swaying like she knew exactly how distracting it was. Alone, he sat on the edge of the giant bed, head in his hands. The roar of the crowd still echoed in the distance. Okay, Ethan, he muttered. Don't panic. They just want you to look at their cats. Probably. Maybe. One of the giant felines in the corner yawned, showing a mouth full of teeth the size of his fingers. He lay back on the bed, staring up at the ceiling painted with scenes of women wrestling enormous cats in the sand. In every scene, the woman always came out on top. That did not feel like a metaphor he wanted to think too hard about. Somewhere outside, the elder's voice boomed one last announcement for the night. Rest well, Seedbringer. Tomorrow, your hands will decide our future. He closed his eyes and groaned. Yeah. I'm doomed. The arena was already alive when Ethan stepped onto the sand. Hollow cameras whirred overhead, floating just close enough to make him paranoid. The stands were packed with towering women, their cheers pounding in his ears. The massive cats lounged along the outer wall, licking their paws with slow menace, as if waiting for him to slip up. The elder announced the first part of the festival in a voice that shook the stone. The Seedbringer will now inspect our P***size for beauty, grace, and worth. Ethan nodded nervously, crouching to pat the head of the first feline presented to him. Nice coat. Strong build. Really tight. He froze as the crowd gasped in delight. He meant the cat's muscle tone, but the woman holding the leash smiled like he just proposed. One by one, more giantesses stepped forward with their sleek companions. Ethan kept his comments strictly about fur patterns, teeth, and agility, but somehow every observation earned him a wink, a purr, or an appreciative moan. That's a gorgeous set of whiskers, he said to one tiger-striped beast. Its owner leaned down, murmuring, You should see the rest of me. The commentators floating in the air narrated with the same solemnity you'd hear in a championship sport. Ah, see the human strokes with confidence, yes, and she's purring already. Strong hands for such a small male. Ethan kept moving, pretending not to hear. A particularly huge cat pressed against his legs, almost knocking him over. Whoa, easy there, big guy, he muttered. The owner chuckled. He likes you. We both do. The second round began before he could breathe. A line of contestants waited with their cats, but instead of the animals following commands, the women dropped to one knee at his feet. He said, Sit, intending it for the panther beside them, only to watch the woman obey instead, smiling up at him. The crowd erupted into laughter and applause. Good girl? He tried. She actually purred, low and throaty. The panther looked annoyed. Round after round, the misunderstanding deepened. He tried to focus on the animals. They insisted on showing off their owners. Some women bent low to adjust their leashes in slow, deliberate movements. Others leaned close so he could check their purring technique, which in practice meant his face was inches from a neckline that could swallow him whole. Backstage, he finally found a moment to breathe. That's when Vakira appeared, tall, all lean muscle and fierce curves, eyes locked on him like she was considering where to bite. She circled him slowly, every step deliberate. You've barely touched mine, she said. I thought I was supposed to just look. She smirked. You can do more than look, human. If you want to win. I'm not competing. She leaned down, her face inches from his. Tomorrow is the final round. Then you will have to get hands-on. And I will make sure you remember it. Before he could answer, the elder's voice echoed from the arena. Bring the Seedbringer back. We have yet more to judge. Ethan groaned. Of course we do. Back in the center, another contestant approached, draped in glittering silk that barely clung to her body. The cat at her side looked mean enough to chew through a shuttle hull, but her smile was even sharper. Care to test my reflexes, human? She purred. I think I'll pass. Too late. She tossed him a ball the size of a melon. He fumbled it, almost dropping it, while she caught it again effortlessly without even looking. The commentators gasped theatrically. Oh, the human plays hard to get! By the end of the day, Ethan's legs ached, his ears rang from the cheers, and his head spun from the constant barrage of double meanings. He thought he was there to judge cats. Everyone else thought he was warming up to judge them. Vakira passed him in the exit tunnel, brushing her hip against him in a way that felt anything but accidental. Sleep well, little judge. Tomorrow, the real trials begin. He swallowed hard. Yeah. I'm doomed. Ethan woke to the sound of drums. Not distant, ceremonial drums, these were close enough to make his ribs vibrate. The silk robe they'd given him yesterday had been replaced by something even flimsier, and two attendants stood at the doorway, grinning like they knew exactly why he was here. They marched him into a chamber glowing with gold light. Rows of giantesses stood waiting, some flexing, some adjusting silks, all watching him with a hunger that wasn't subtle. At the far end, the elder spoke with a tone that made the crowd lean in. Today we test compatibility. The Seedbringer will examine our readiness. He opened his mouth to protest, but someone had already pressed a strange scanner into his hand. A tall warrior approached, letting her robe fall just enough to reveal an expanse of skin that made his ears burn. Check me thoroughly, she said, voice velvet. The scanner beeped softly as he moved it across her, shoulder, side, hip. She closed her eyes and made an exaggerated sigh that drew whistles from the audience. He tried to keep his eyes on the device, but she tilted her head and murmured, Careful, little human, you might find something you like. One after another they came. Each one taller, stronger, more shameless than the last. His attempts at clinical distance were met with smirks, soft touches, and whispered promises. The commentators narrated every awkward moment. Note the human's steady hands, though he lingers on that one. Perhaps a favorite? The second trial was worse, or better, depending on perspective. The stamina demonstration was explained to him in broken translation, but he quickly understood when the first competitor scooped him up and sprinted into an obstacle course. Sand kicked up around them as she vaulted walls, swung on ropes, and carried him like he was no heavier than a cloak. He clung to her neck, half laughing, half praying she wouldn't drop him. Vakira's turn came. She lifted him without a word, her arms a cage of muscle, her stride effortless. She took each obstacle with calculated grace, her eyes never leaving his. I could hold you all night, she said in the middle of a climb. Lady, I'm not even sure I could hold on all night. He shot back, earning another roar from the stands. By the time the final trial began, his hair was full of sand and his heart wouldn't slow down. They led him into a curtained row of private chambers. One by one, contestants waited inside, posed on cushions, their cats sprawled beside them like exotic props. He was supposed to evaluate presentation. It felt a lot like speed dating with an audience just outside the curtain. Some tried subtlety, soft smiles, quiet conversation. Others went for full spectacle, bending and stretching in ways that made the curtain sway from the crowd's reactions. Every compliment he gave, no matter how innocent, was met with a look that promised trouble later. When he entered Vakira's chamber, she didn't pose. She sat cross-legged, leaning back on her hands, watching him like she had all the time in the world. You've seen many, she said. But none like me. Confident, aren't you? Certain, she replied. And when I win, you will be too. She didn't need to show off. The weight of her gaze alone felt like a promise. He moved the scanner over her without thinking, the soft hum filling the space between them. She caught his wrist halfway through and pulled him closer, her breath warm against his cheek. "Choose me, human! Or I'll take you anyway." He swallowed hard, backing toward the curtain. "Noted." Outside, the elder announced the end of the day's trials. Floating holoscreens displayed a voting chart, Vakira's name glowing near the top. 2 others were close behind. The crowd's energy was electric, the chants rhythmic, building toward the next day. Ethan barely made it back to his chamber before collapsing onto the massive bed. Somewhere out there, thousands of giant women were arguing over who would get to win him. Vakira was probably sharpening her claws, literally. And tomorrow, he'd have to pick. The final day began under a sky so bright it felt staged, which made sense, because every angle of the arena now bristled with floating holocams. The crowd was louder than ever, the chants a steady pulse that carried his name. Ethan stood in the center, robe clinging to him in the heat, while the elder raised a hand for silence. "The Seedbringer will now make his final judgment." 3 women stepped forward, each draped in ceremonial silks so sheer they may as well have been painted on. Behind them, their massive cats lounged like living thrones. The first approached with a confident sway, circling him slowly, her perfume thick in the air. "I can keep you warm for the rest of your short human life," she whispered, fingers brushing his chest just enough to make his pulse trip. The crowd responded with a wave of approving shouts. The second knelt before him, tilting her head back so her long hair spilled across the sand. "I will feed you, protect you, and keep you entertained," she said, voice low enough to vibrate in his bones. Her cat yawned behind her like it already approved. She rose with a smile that promised far more than food. Then Vakira stepped forward. She didn't circle. She didn't kneel. She stopped close enough that her shadow swallowed him, her eyes locked on his with a weight that made it hard to breathe. "You've had your fun," she said softly, but the sound carried across the arena. "Now stop pretending you're not already mine." The elder gestured for him to speak. Ethan's mouth went dry. Every camera in the place zoomed in. He glanced from one towering woman to the next. "You're all amazing. Gorgeous. Terrifying. I'm just a guy who thought he was judging cats." Laughter rippled through the stands, but it didn't relieve the pressure in the air. Vakira's lips curved just slightly, like she knew the punchline to a joke he hadn't heard yet. He took a breath. "If I have to choose, then I choose the one who never had to convince me. Vakira." The crowd exploded. Hollow screens lit up with her name. She didn't celebrate, she simply grabbed his hand, hauling him toward the raised platform at the center of the arena. The elder was still trying to speak over the noise when she turned to face the audience, lifting Ethan's arm like a trophy. In the chaos, the commentators were losing their minds. "And there it is, folks, the human has chosen. The seed will be spread, the prophecy fulfilled, the ratings unprecedented." Before Ethan could react, Vakira leaned down and kissed him, hard, decisive, the kind of kiss that left no room for argument. The crowd's cheer turned into something primal, echoing off the stone until it felt like the whole valley was shaking. When she finally released him, she didn't let go of his hand. "Come," she said, already leading him toward the royal chambers. He managed, "You know, I thought this was about cats." "It was," she said, glancing over her shoulder with a wicked smile. "And now it's about you." As the doors closed behind them, the last thing he heard was the commentator gleefully announcing to the galaxy that tonight's ratings would make history. And somewhere deep in the chambers of the giantess tribe, Ethan realized he had absolutely no idea what he'd gotten himself into, but escape wasn't even on his mind anymore.